Well, hello and everybody. It's Wednesday, so that means one thing at sports community. It's doing sport differently. It's the last one for the year, and today we are joined by two very great guests: Andrew Sloane, project manager of Southwest Sport, and Mike McGorm, the development officer at Warrnambool Basketball Association. Welcome to you both.
Thanks
you.
For having us,
Thanks for having us.
Now, Andrew, we'll just start with you. Southwest Sport is a regional sports assembly. So, for those that are not altogether have heard of regional sports assemblies before, do you want to give us a little bit of background to your role and what you do in the community?
Absolutely. Thanks, Steve. So there's 9 different regional sports assemblies around Victoria. And basically we exist to really support community-based level sports clubs. So a lot of sports will have development officers that can go out into the regions and support the clubs through various issues. But I guess the RSAs, as we're commonly referred to, we can help clubs through different governance issues or point them in the direction of different grants, and some of the crossover work that you actually do, Steve.
Oh, and the benefit, I mean, we're very similar, aren't we? We cross over sports, we cross over clubs, and we just learn along the journey. But one of those sports that does have a development officer and the Warrnambool Basketball Association. So, Mike, do you want to just give us a little bit of background into your role, how it came to be, how you went from the big city smoke of Melbourne to surfing 4 days a week at Warrnambool?
Only a little bit of surf. I'd love to do more, but very busy. My wife's from Warrnambool, so we were always we'd always come down here every holidays, and the plan was to one day look at moving down here. And then her role came up, and I saw an advertisement on my role currently, development officer, that I had in Melbourne at Knox Basketball. Been down there for 7 years and loved it. And it was like, well, what do I do? And when we both made the decision, both children were very keen on moving to Warrnambool. A lot of family here, so it was an easy choice, really. Got the job, started here nearly 2 years ago now. Time's flied, but club's been wonderful. Kids are wonderful. I had I'm amazed every 6 months in the talent that comes through the door. It's as good as anything I've worked with in the city, and that's honest truth. Amazing athletes, great kids, great family. I haven't had any negativity with the move. I've loved every second of it.
Fantastic. So, COVID comes. Let's go back to March in your role, and I've been really interested to know the journey of the Warrnambool Basketball Association, how it handled COVID, and then really interestingly how you've handled coming back towards the leading into Christmas period. So, but take us back to March and the first kind of lockdown. How did that affect you and the organisation?
We had school visits booked. Like, part of my role is to introduce basketball to 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds and get them involved in all our junior development stuff. And I had it all booked out for the year, and it was looking great. And then bang, the club was awesome with their support of me, and they kept me on. So part of my role was, right at the start, is to keep the engagement with a lot of the kids, and for all ages right up. A couple of our things, we started with Zoom trainings, so virtual trainings. The kids could log on. I'd run it weekly. We have like under 12s, I'd run a session. I'd post a fitness video a week and a skill development video a week, so they could log on at any time and watch it and do what they've got at home. They had very limited space. A lot of kids do have basketball rings, so I gave them different drills if they didn't have rings or if they had rings. We just worked with that. And the messages I was getting back was, how the kids were looking forward to those videos each week. We'd have the fitness one, strength and conditioning, and then later in the week we'd have a skill one. That evolved also into I wanted to give them something else per week. So I organised a Zoom meeting. The first one was Mitch Creek, who's an Australian boomer player,
Yep.
Captain of Southeast Melbourne
That's
Phoenix.
it, Phoenix.
We've got a partnership with them. They look after us, and we promote them down here. So he was wonderful. Then our next guest was Joe Ingles. So he just freshly signed his $54 million contract and offered Warrnambool a Zoom meeting. So, we spoke to the kids and said, enter a question and we'll go live with a Zoom meeting. And, both of those guys, I can't thank them enough. They gave up, an hour and a half of their time, and the kids got to ask, some superstars questions and really learn. And, I learn a lot of those guys as well. And our final Zoom meeting was Trevor Gleeson, who's a famous Warrnambool coach and probably in my eyes the best coach in the NBL, clearly. And he gave some great insights as well. So it was really they were really the uptake. We had thousands of views, and Basketball Victoria had them on their websites. They were very well received by everyone.
So, Andrew, one of the words that Mike just used was, the lockdown came, and the first thing he did was engage the membership, engage the community, engage. And through the COVID period, I'll be interested in your thoughts, kind of two types of clubs: those that have engaged, and they seem to be the ones that have come out really strongly out of the back end, and those that have kind of they've lost connection with their membership. They kind of put up the shutters and said, well, we'll start again when we're able to. And they're the ones that we're finding having real challenge. Is that what you found when you're talking to clubs?
Yes, that definitely does exist. And I think that for a lot of grassroots clubs, the volunteers have just gone, almost, thank goodness I can have a break and I don't have to worry about turning up 2 or 3 times a week to mow and paint and do all those chores that they have to do as a volunteer. So the member engagement aspect is absolutely critical, and hats off to Mike and the broader basketball community for getting on board, because you're dead right. And the challenge now is for clubs to go not only through the process of return to play plans and COVID safe environments, but also getting their members back. And how do we engage them, particularly at this time of year, which is another thing that Mike's done really, really well.
Well, it is. And the return to play, Mike, we're kind of jumping forward 6 months, but the return to play was a really challenging time for you because it was mid to late November leading into the December Christmas period. So sports and clubs really struggled to know how to deal with that short period. How did you and Warrnambool Basketball Association change the way that you operated to that period?
Yeah, well, it was brought up in the committee meeting. We had a lot of options. Do we start a season? My idea was to have pickup games, which is just 5 on 5, 6 on 6, whatever it may be, depending on numbers. And it was thought that it would be good lead up because it was only a 4-week period. So, you can't be too structured with ladders and fixtures. And it was just they turn up and they play. And, I'm speaking to kids. That's all they wanted to do. They just wanted to get back on court. We were lucky enough, I can never thank them enough, is the Merry Creek School. They offered their outdoor court to us for training all the domestic kids. So we had a good block of training prior to that when we could get outside. A lot of other associations weren't allowed to use schools, but Merry Creek opened their doors to us. And, we even held our final squad tryouts there. So, we got ahead of everyone because of them and their generosity at opening the doors to us and getting us back on to court because, everything just flowed smoothly as soon as we could get back. But yeah, back to your question, it was just, the committee, we all put our heads together and thought, well, let's just have a 4-week little round robin, mix the teams up each week, and just play. And it really has been well received.
Yeah, we've seen in a lot of sports that in the return to play didn't necessarily allow competition straight up, and the training and social formats. And the theme that's come through, Andrew, that we've seen is people have rediscovered their actual love of that sport without the competition side. Is that how you've seen it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we've got to remember, we say sport and we think competition, but sports are a game, and games are fun. And I think sometimes we lose sight of that. And the flexibility that Mike and the Warrnambool Basketball Association have shown in responding to their members' needs and wants, and finding a way to be flexible and adapting their program to provide something moving forward will hold them in really, really good stead. I mean, your numbers, Mike, over this 4-week period are fantastic. You've got 3 courts at capacity most nights of the week, I believe.
Yeah, it's around the 300 mark per week.
So, and you play, as you said, it's pickup style. So, it's almost like the schoolyard stuff. Pick your teams and off you go. So, how have you done it, and what have you changed in the 4 weeks? Because it's been quite significant.
Yeah, initially we ran it like we run our domestic, so we just evened it all up. So, stronger players, everyone went into a pool, and we just, trying to make even teams. And in the first week, I've been at every one of them, and I just noticed that some of the stronger kids were mucking around, and they weren't getting much out of it. And even the kids that might be newer to the sport, they just weren't touching the ball. So, I had a look at it and had an idea and thought, gee, I don't know how this will go, but we'll give it a shot. And I put all the strong kids on one court, and leveled it down, kind of thing. So the lesser kids that mightn't have played much basketball, I watched their games, and they're touching the ball and dribbling it up, and in the previous week they hadn't touched the ball for like the majority of the game. And then I looked, well, they're actually getting something out of that. But then I went over to the other court where all the high level squad kids are playing, and it's up and down, and it's a 2-point game, and it's getting a bit physical, and those kids were like, yeah, that's a real game of basketball. And I think keeping that, it will go back to the way it was, but I think this has been a really good getting them back into fitness, getting them back to the game. And I've really found my love of the game. Sometimes when I'm just so involved in it day to day, every day, 10 hours some days, you probably don't appreciate it when you do get to the stadium, and being outdoors and in the wind and rain sometimes, and then I get back into a stadium, it's like, we're lucky here. This is awesome. So as well as me, and I've been around basketball a long time, but it's really given me a real spark and energized me again too.
And if I may, Steve, just before you do jump in, the other thing that Mike's done is change those teams up each week as well. So, my son, for example, I can come at this from a parent's perspective as well. Last week, he got to play with his best mate. Yeah. And they've been playing basketball for 4 or 5 years, and they've never played on a team together. They play at school every single day. So last week, they got to play on a team together. And if this 4-week program hadn't have happened, that wouldn't have happened. So I think that's another way of being flexible and going with the flow of what people might need and want in their sport.
It's interesting, Mike. You said the comment. We will go back to the way we've always done it, and it's interesting. And we're talking selection and team structure, etc. Saying before the session, before we went live, that we just finished a really deep analysis of a very large metropolitan Melbourne basketball club, 1,000+ participants. really positive, really strong. And the big ticket item was selection. And there seemed to be different groups of players, those really competitive, those really social, and those that just wanted to play with their mates. And when it seemed to be that those three different groups were mixed together, it really deteriorated the satisfaction that each of those groups got. And so those groups of participants, and so this association or this club is now being challenged by their membership, because they asked the question. They're now being challenged by their membership to completely redesign that selection process. And I was we literally finished that job in the last couple of days. And so to get your experience and changing it up and increasing the value to all those groups of participants is really interesting and really positive, I think.
Yeah, it's just like, we don't have 1,000. I'd love to have 1,000 kids so we could split them up like we have now, but just don't have the numbers. Like, you know, they'd end up playing each other virtually every second week. So it's not the depth of numbers there. You know, I think this has been wonderful, but I don't know how it would go over a whole season. Like we're pretty lucky with the committee that we've got. They're pretty progressive, and they put me on. So, you know, they're not afraid of making some tough decisions when they have to. And, you know, it's something we will look at. But, we just don't have the numbers. Like, you know, I'm from Knox, where there's, I would hate to think how many kids are playing there. And you know, you can really, you know, a domestic club might have 7 under 12 teams. That's where I'm from.
Yeah.
So they can do that more so at Knox. That's my background. So they'll put strong kids together, kids that may want to just play with their mates, and kids beginning, you know, in the different squads, because, you know, under 12s have got 7 teams, under 14s have probably got 7 to 9 teams, and this is just the domestic club. This isn't even rep level. So the numbers are astronomical. So you can tend to get away with that and do that.
And it might not be about replacing what's been historically, because it's there for a reason, but it might be about complementing it, Andrew, so that from a couple of times a year in a pickup competition or a holiday competition or whatever it is, that the mates do get to play together, which they wouldn't normally have done.
Yeah, absolutely.
We every year we run a couple of 3-on-3 tournaments, and I think I'm gearing towards that. Your summer, January 3-on-3 tournaments and things like that, and that's the thing where we're promoting fun. We're not promoting, you know, we want you to win, and it's just there. You know, there's music. We'll have some extra things, but we do have, you know, I'd love to promote a nice big, you know, early Jan seaside 3-on-3. You know, when we've got the outdoor court down at the near the Surf Lifesaving, when that's built, hopefully the council get on top of that and get that done for next year. We could potentially even bring like the Pro Hustle or something like that down here, so some, you know, ex-NBL guys can come down and play on the foreshore there. I think that would be a great thing for the city, actually.
To your point, Steve, as well, I think some sports possibly lend themselves to that side-by-side social competitive environment a lot better. And as Mike said, in that regional setting, sometimes critical mass of participation can be a real issue. But, you know, sports like pickleball, which is another thing that I'm involved in, is a fantastic game where you do have that social aspect, but those that do want to play a bit more competitively can go down that pathway as well. So, yeah, I'd certainly empathise with Mike's point around the critical mass of participation in those regional settings.
No, absolutely, and it's interesting how different sports, different clubs, different communities have tackled it. And Mike, you did bring up. I was going to talk about 3x3 or 3-on-3 or 3x3 hustle, but it's now an Olympic sport, so yeah, there is the competitive side of that. How has that been received in the community? Has that been an exciting innovation, or is it still a bit gimmicky like T20 was a few years ago at community level?
Yeah, good question. We've only had the one tournament because we were planned to have one in the winter this year, but that all got planned. But the first one was a big success, and you'll find that it's a very different sport to the normal 5-on-5
Yeah.
basketball. So a different kind of athlete can really have a career now in 3-on-3. So if you're a really good 3-on-3 player, you're not necessarily the best 5-on-5 player. They're very
No.
different. It's like 2020 cricket.
Yeah,
It's more
yeah.
explosive and fast and
Yeah.
just non-stop. And it is a very different game. And you'll find that there will be a career path if someone wants it to someone that may not have been good enough or different skills to get a 5-on-5 career. So they're, in Europe, they're earning millions of dollars 3-on-3 players, and most of them wouldn't get pro contracts in 5-on-5. So yeah, there is a pathway. It's an Olympic sport now, and it's in its infancy in Australia, but it's been massive in Europe for 15 years, and it will be big here. So yeah, we're definitely going to go down the path of more 3-on-3. And I find the kids, once again, they touch the ball more. It's more involved. Like you can get lost on a 5-on-5 court. One strong kid on your team, he may not need to pass the ball, so he'll dribble through 5 and score. So with the 3-on-3, they actually have to share the ball a little bit, and the spacing of the floor is different. So it is a different game, but we do plan on running a few more tournaments. Yeah, I'm a big fan of 3-on-3.
And have you seen that, Andrew, that's starting to become the T20, a little bit barefoot bowls, that social options coming into more and more sports as well, and being taken up by a different group of participants?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's exactly the point I was about to make, Steve, is that, the Warrnambool District Cricket Association, for example, T20 is a standard part of their season. They have T20 1-days and 2-days all in a regular season. So I think more and more we're going to see clubs and sports just make that part of the norm. And I know a lot of the state sporting associations are coming up with new ways to engage a wider audience, because that's what we're really talking about. We're trying to get more people to be part of our clubs, because then we're a more active and connected community, which ultimately supports businesses and the general health and well-being of where we live.
And the Warrnambool region does it really well. We had Kate Haverfield from the Warrnambool Triathlon Club, not on the Doing Sport Differently live stream, and she was talking about the couch to coach format, couch to coast format of triathlon, and the splash, dash, and dawdle. Like they're very unintimidating type names and formats that are really encouraging of that introductory participant into the sport, whereas it might be a bit intimidating for a lot of us mere humans that aren't built for Lycra.
Exactly right. And both Warrnambool Tri Club and Warrnambool Athletics Club during the COVID restrictions were quite active in this space of trying to run virtual events to make sure that they were staying connected to their members. And it actually resulted in a membership increase as well as a sponsorship increase, because they were being seen as being progressive and opening the doors for more people to participate on their own terms. So, yeah.
That just brings me back to where I wanted to just explore just a little bit earlier, Mike, when you were talking about you did a lot of your coaching online and engagement online. 2 questions. Did you get the kids providing their own videos of themselves when they were doing it and doing that sort of stuff, or was it more just the one way?
No, it was we had I'm coaching the under 12 boys, so I ran a session for 12 boys, and it was a Zoom meeting, so it was open to everyone, and they could show me what they were doing online, but all the other videos were just posted, so kids could do them at home whenever they got the chance. So it was all just done, but we did with the 12s have Zoom meetings and virtual Zoom trainings, and go on, sorry.
So a lot of clubs have, and it sounds like you have as well, a lot of clubs have had great success and engagement with their participants Are you going to build this into the way that you run, particularly the representatives and the squad side of it, the way that you engage in the off seasons and prepare for training and prepare for tryouts? Will you start to bring that online angle or?
I would definitely, yeah, because it the engagement with it, especially when we couldn't get together. So we just have Zoom meetings now. So it's I've learned. I was never that good on a computer. I was a really good coach, but now I can get on a Zoom meeting and run it pretty easily. So it was a big success, and even in lockdown, we signed a major sponsor, a 3-year deal with Telstra. So part of that sponsorship, for them to take a chance on us during lockdown when we didn't know when we were going to get back, I can never thank them enough either. They make life pretty easy. So thank you, Telstra.
No, well, thank you.
But Steve, I think also on that point as well that, when you do think about how to communicate and keep members engaged, being in an online format is brilliant, because if someone gets an injury mid-season, they can't play for the rest of the year. There's potential for them to drop out of that sport or, become very disengaged. So I think to Mike's point around your point around having that online community really is just another smart way that clubs can engage with more people in their catchment.
Yeah, and I'm seeing or predicting a little bit of an evolution, and particularly around pre-season, because a lot of the times we saw virtual running races where the track was set, and then you'd go and do it on your own time, use a GPS watch and a platform maybe like Strava, or and so we're creating those sort of races and those sort of virtual competitions. But I can see coaches constructing their pre-season training like that, people coming, doing it in informal groups around a course or at their own leisure, and being able to create that community around it, post your times, etc., etc. So I'm seeing that there's the opportunity now for clubs to stay engaged during that off season, and have a bit of fun and also a bit of structure about the training as well. So it'd be interesting to see what actually happens, or whether we just revert back to what we've always done.
Yeah, I think certainly at the moment we're seeing possibly the latter of what you just said, in that people they're flocking to the things that they are familiar with.
Yeah.
So they do want to return to that traditional sport. They do want to get back into those routines that they're familiar with after 10 months of a hell of a lot of uncertainty. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see what happens next.
But Mike, what you and your program and your committee have done is shown that that you didn't have to go straight back to the format, the 4-week pick-up game, which is almost about as far away from your traditional side. Group people together, like-minded, like the way they wanted to play, allow them to play with their mates. That creates huge value for participants, and it's really something that we should at least take notice of, isn't it? And keep in the back of our mind, how do we maximise that for the future throughout the year, even if it's just to complement what we do?
Definitely. Yeah. Look, if I've learned one thing over this period, is you've got to be flexible, and you've got to just flow with it, and whatever's working, go with it. And if it's not, check it out, have it try something new. But if anything, I've become a lot more flexible because I've had to. I'm a very structured person. I like my trainings to all be on time and have my training plans, but sometimes I've learned to be very, very flexible.
Well, and flexible people are starting to realise part of being flexible actually is looking at it through the eyes of the participant, not looking at it through the battle-hardened city coach.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we've seen sports, Andrew's seen sports really do, is start to look at things really differently, because they've had to, but also because they wanted to get people back and they've looked at their sports options through the eyes of the participants, and it's had great results, as you say, bigger numbers than previous.
And as you said at the top of this session, Steve, actually asking members, what do you want? And that's where the good ideas can be grown from, because we think of things. Oh, we think that they want this, so that's what we'll deliver. But it only takes one seed of a thought from someone to go, geez, it'd be really great if we just did things slightly different. Maybe it's an earlier time slot. Maybe it is a 4-week program that has a lower cost associated with it. All those sorts of things.
Yeah, or a 4-week program where every week I'm playing with someone different. I can either get to play with my mates or someone new.
Spot on.
Yeah. Mike, I think what you've done is just fantastic. Congratulations to you and the Warrnambool Basketball Association for getting through so strongly. And Andrew, the work that you and all the RSAs around Victoria do has been invaluable through it always is, but through COVID, it's just been valuable. So guys, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing that knowledge and deep experience. And Mike, your willingness to change and share that journey has been great.
Yeah, my iPad was just about to go out of charge, so I've had to run to the kitchen, back it on charger too. So once again, just going with the flow and being able to be flexible.
Yeah, and we
well summed up sometime. Thank you.
No, very much. So guys, thank you very much. For those that are watching, and I know there's many of you that are watching the Doing Sport Differently live streams each week, thank you for being so supportive. It's been brilliant. We're really excited that we'll convert these live streams into podcasts in the new year. So that'll all be available so you can listen to them in the cars. Not so great to listen to me, but great to listen to guests like Andrew and Mike. So until next year, I'm Steve Pallas, and thank you so much for being part of our sports community. Guys,